Okay, in the last couple of videos, we saw how we could approximate the area under between the function and the x-axis using rectangles. And we only used two rectangles, but we discussed a lower sum, an upper sum, and the midpoint rule. Those sums that we came up with actually have a special name. They are called a Riemann sum. And a Riemann sum adds up the areas of the rectangles that we use to approximate the area under a curve. Two things happen when we create a Riemann sum. The first is that we decompose the interval on the x-axis, so let's say the x interval, into subintervals, each having a width delta x. If we want to do them equal width, that's great. If they're equal width, then our delta x is obtained by finding the length of the interval on the x-axis divided by the number of pieces that we're decomposing into. And then we sample a point in each subinterval to obtain the height of each rectangle. Once we have the height of each rectangle times the width, then we multiply, find the area of one rectangle, and add them all up. And so that's called a Riemann sum. So far, ways in which we've seen how to sample a point in each subinterval is by using a lower sum, where we take the minimum value of the function in a subinterval, or the upper sum, where we take the maximum value of the function in the subinterval. We also saw the midpoint, where we find the midpoint of the subinterval and take the height as the value of the function at the midpoint. So I'm going to show you an applet here where we have a function that has been defined here as sine of 2x minus x squared over 10 plus 3. That function is graphed, and we're looking at it from 1 to 7. And right now, the width of each subinterval these are equal width subintervals. I don't know what the width is. It looks like about 1, just less than 1. And just to orient you a little bit here, n is the number of pieces that we're breaking up into. So we have 8 pieces here, so n is equal to 8, the number of subintervals. And we can use a lower sum, an upper sum. We can randomly pick where the height of the function will be. We can also use a right endpoint. That means that's what we have here, that in each subinterval, we take the right endpoint of that subinterval, and that's going to give us the height that we're going to use to find the area of the rectangle. So notice in each of these subintervals, the height is obtained by taking the function value at the right endpoint of each subinterval. In the third subinterval here, the right endpoint is here, and there's the height. We could also, of course, choose instead, let's say, the lower sum. Let me see if I can do this. If we pick the lower sum, this is a lower sum. In each subinterval, for example, let's take this one right here. The lowest value of the function in the subinterval happens here, and so that's where the height is. In this subinterval, the lowest value of the function, since the function is increasing in the subinterval, happens at the left endpoint, and that's where we take the height for the lower sum. So this right now is a lower sum approximation for the area between the function and the x-axis with with 8 subintervals, n equals 8 subintervals. What I'm going to do now is we're going to explore, well, how can we get a better approximation? And one way to do that is to use more rectangles. So notice that when I move the n so that it has more rectangles, we are making the error between the area under the function and the area covered by the areas of the rectangles. That error becomes smaller as n gets larger. Same thing happens down here. The error becomes smaller as n gets larger. We can continue to do that. Here right now we have 34 rectangles, n is 34. I can continue to move those rectangles, make them more and more and more. And you can see when we use 100 rectangles, we're getting a really good approximation to the area under the curve. That's using a lower sum. I'm going to shift this to, let's say, n equals 38. And now I'm going to change to an upper sum where we're overestimating the area here, underestimating down here because the function values are negative. And so when the function values are negative, the largest value of the function is going to be the value, the negative number that's closer to 0. And so that's why this is an underestimate, where here we're overestimating using an upper sum. Once again, the more subintervals we use, the better the approximation will be to the area under the curve. Fewer subintervals, we have more error. More subintervals, it gets better. We can also use, I'm going to click here, and we're going to use the midpoint rule. There's the midpoint. Here's n equals 23. Notice that to get the height in each rectangle, we take the midpoint of each subinterval and get the height there. So I'm going to unclick the upper and lower sum so you can only see the midpoint approximations. And once again, as n gets larger and larger and larger, we're getting a better approximation to the area under the curve because the area of the rectangles are getting closer and closer and closer to the area under the curve. So what we will be doing next is we'll find ways, so we have a couple of things to do. So our goals will be as follows. We need to figure out a way to write sums of many, many terms in an abbreviated form. Right? Because our goal will be to use as many rectangles as we can. But when we do that, we're going to have really long sums of areas of rectangles, and we need a way to condense those sums. And then notice that as we let n get arbitrarily large, what I really want to do is we want to take a limiting value as n gets closer and gets arbitrarily large. So we're going to call that the limit as n approaches infinity of the sum that we get of the areas of n rectangles. So the work that we need to do is really in how are we going to condense big sums. That's going to be using sigma notation, and sigma is capital Greek letter for S. So that's going to be the next few videos, is an introduction to sigma notation. And then once we've done that, we're going to return to this idea and think about, well, how might we find the exact area between the function and the x-axis by finding a limit as the number of pieces gets arbitrarily large. So that's where this section is headed, so that we can define the exact area between a function and the x-axis.